I have no doubt, James, but I support this bill 100%. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker.
Well, I'm tempted to call Simon O'Connor. I'm not quite sure what I should call him now. Simon O'Connor.
No, well, that could easily take up my 5 minutes, but probably not the indulgent way to take this. Look, I am opposing the bill tonight, not because of the principles behind it, but opposing it because I don't think this is the right platform. And nor in terms of what the last speaker was saying around the use of select committees, and I might touch on both those aspects. I do want to, as others have, to acknowledge James Shaw for the work that he and I understand Kennedy Graham have put into this. I think actually what's being proposed here as a concept makes a lot of sense. I'm sure if our former colleague Dr. Graham Calder was here, he'd be agreeing. I know at different party conferences he often spoke about the need to look at new indicators well beyond GDP. And I don't profess to be an expert in this particular space, but even I can understand that there's a lot more that we can measure to better understand how we engage not only with one another but the environment at large. I suppose my issue is I don't believe that the Public Finance Act is the place for this to occur. In some ways, I think it's sort of a mismatch which won't actually do any good either to the public finance approaches that this and previous governments, and I would argue future governments, will take. And in some ways, I don't think it'll actually do much good for the environmental side either. The Finance Act, we've been given a little bit of a history, I think, by Craig Foss a bit earlier, the reason the Act came about. It's fairly simple insofar as it's around transparency. And importantly, it's around fiscal policy. It's around, really, in effect, about taxing and spending and debt. That's what it's about, the Act, and it uses GDP, a crude model, if you will, to try and explain those things, but it's a crude model which is, I think, very sufficient for its purpose. Importantly, too, I think GDP as it stands, the measures as they stand and the Act as it stands is well understood both within New Zealand and overseas and gives us some surety. And I think when we turn consequently to the schedules, I have them in here, 8 and 9, we end up with a number of indicators and subpoints. I think there's about 36 subpoints which really do complicate things, and I think it ultimately takes away from the initial intention of the Public Finance Act. And if I wanted to be slightly conspiratorial, I think it would actually harm that transparency as we all get a bit confused in and around numbers. We want some just clear indicators from government, regardless if it's the national government now or the continuing national government through 2017-2020, to know what's happening in that space. Environmentally, I think what the member is suggesting could well sit in its own piece of legislation. I know this government has made some changes, I think, in 2015 around environmental reporting. I think a really important step. I think the first government to put such indicators in place. It's only a suggestion off the top of my head. I think what Mr. Shaw is suggesting could well play into an act like that. Could play. Oh, dearie me, the last interjections from that member in the coming weeks, but use them while you can. I think there's real positivity in what's been suggested here to actually go into that Environmental Reporting Act. I think a lot of the elements we see are beneficial. I'm conscious of the time, though, and I want to add that I think one of the risks we have with this sort of series of principles is they can always be added to. Some member earlier used the term progressive. It'll be no surprise to yourself, I'm not a great fan of progressivism as a philosophical concept, and the reason is it picks winners and losers. And I think there's a danger as we end up with schedules like this, that we end up picking winning and losing concepts that may be sort of de rigueur. And I think that's unhelpful, and we've heard some feedback tonight where people are critiquing some of these 36 indicators and saying, well, that's not in and that shouldn't be, and I think it ends up quite wasteful. And that probably takes me to my final point, that as it's currently constructed in this bill, asking that the Minister of Finance is the one responsible to report on these puts him or her into direct conflict with the likes of the Chief Statistician and the Treasury. So I think there's a bit of a mismatch there. And finally, which is now my third final point, which comes back to one of the first ones, I don't feel it's the place of select committees to do a lot of that work. Select committees are the place where the ideas are already well articulated and we move from there. And so I would disagree with some colleagues who are saying that here we float an idea and then select committees spend... Oh.
The member's time has expired.
Oh, thank you very much.
The Honourable David Cummings.
Mr.